Thank you.
1:03 p.m. and a quorum of the board is present. The State Board of Education meeting of December 11th, 2018 is called to order. We still have a presentation under Committee of the Whole, but before that, we are going to move to our public participation in the State Board of Education meeting. Marilyn, do we have individuals who have asked to address the State Board of Education this afternoon?
I have one public participation form. Are there any other forms? Okay. We are going to hear from Jody Berger. Jody, if you'll make your way to the table. You can monitor your time right here, and I just want to alert you that it's the practice of the board to listen to what you have to say, but not engage in a back and forth conversation. So thank you for coming.
Sure, I'm glad to be here. Hi, I'm Jody Lee Berger, and I went to Oakland University to become a teacher. I'm from Rochester, grew up on a horse farm in the rural area of Oakland Township. Went to Oakland Christian School due to religious reasons for my parents, and I hated it. I wanted to go to Adams. They wouldn't let me, and I ended up loving it. But then I ended up becoming a teacher, and I just retired last spring. From Avondale Public Schools, I retired after over 30 years of teaching, and I taught for 2 years in my alma mater, Oakland Christian, as well, before I got into the public schools, which pay so much better. And it was an awesome several decades. But now I'm here as, I guess, on my own. However, I'm really largely involved in Ferndale Public Schools where I live now. I've lived in Ferndale half my life. After I left the horse farm, I went to the border of Detroit on purpose. Love it. And I love Ferndale. And I've learned a great deal, and I'm a huge advocate for students. I'm very active in the school district. I'm also selected with Avondale as one of my sons goes there. He has an IEP. So I've been in various realms of education, spent my life, and it will remain my life, I'm sure. So I wanted to thank the board because it's such a tough job. It's the one in Ferndale, being on the school board, I've thought about running. I'm like, it's too hard, too much work. They're there all the time. How can you handle this job? So I want to thank you. However, I also am really worried about not being in touch as much as I think we should be if we're in charge of these humongous issues that we're dealing with in education. And I just wondered how, it's a tough job, but I feel like we should reach out more to the community and find out what's going on. I learned more about charter schools in my 5 days employed by one this past fall. I quit after 5 days. I tried to teach at Detroit Leadership Academy for 3 hours a day. Dream schedule, right? I could be out by lunch and home with 15 minutes from my house. Decent pay for, half time being with kids. And African American literature was my master's degree at Wayne. No, I couldn't teach there. After 5 days, it was horrendous. The testing and the curriculum, the binder, smacked down. Do this New York-based curriculum with these kids who read. I had 2 7th grade classes at 3rd grade reading them below. Wonderful kids, crazy 7th grade kids. But it was just inappropriate. And they were being tested, besides MSTEP and MDEA, they're also being tested every other week from another company taking grants for giving the school grants for giving these tests. Tests that were white, middle class, upper middle class based, cultural bias, just horrible tests. And I couldn't do it, so I quit. And I couldn't keep my mouth shut, and I would have a horrible, I'm sure, teacher evaluation from not giving these tests. Anyway, so charters, how do you know this? So my purpose, I guess, in being here is to just plead with the teachers to reach out to get the people in the trenches. Not a professor from MSU. That's great. There's some data. I'm listening to the data going, in my 5 days, I could tell you a lot. Ferndale, I could tell you a lot. The kids that come to us from neighboring districts. We won't let in kids from Detroit unless they go to a certain school, university, high school. So that's why they go to charters. They don't choose. Anyway, there's a long story. So I'm pleading with you to get more people who care about poverty. So talk to people that know. I don't think any of us in this room know that well. I don't. Grew up on a horse farm in Rochester. I can't speak for my kids that I've taught in Ferndale. When I subbed long-term this past fall. In Avondale, my kids from Pontiac. They did start letting in kids from Pontiac in the older grades in Avondale last year. Otherwise, it was in kindergarten. And so you didn't know by the time they got to middle school. That it was pretty much a success story, the early kids that came from Pontiac. But what happened to Pontiac? I love Pontiac. I know what it used to be like 30 years ago. So if you can get more authentic voices in, somehow be creative, I don't know. Not just from the trenches of the schools in Detroit and Pontiac, but from the schools. My brother my brother moved to East Lansing area, well, Mason, farm country. He's got cornfields. He's adopted 7 kids. He's got 8 kids, and they're all kids of color. And what they went through in the hometown where Malcolm X's dad was killed, is crazy in that farm country. They won't even celebrate Martin Luther King Day this year. No, it's not this year. The school board decided not to. Like, oh, okay. So there's so much going on, and I would love to see if there's creative ways to reach out, voices from the trenches, the parents, the kids, the teachers, all around our state. I can't even imagine how different it is in the UP, those schools. And I've heard it's pretty darn cool. So my conclusion was please don't follow the status quo. As Don Ravitch would say, we don't have a crisis of education, we have a crisis of poverty. You take those poor kids out, and our test scores are fine. So we have to put more money into wraparound services than technology, at least I believe. Anyway, thank you for listening. You'll probably see me again. I have time on my hands. I'm a retiree and a writer, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much. And I believe that concludes public comment.
It does.
Okay, so we will move back to our Committee of the Whole meeting. And the next item is a presentation on Every Student Succeeds Act implementation. Since the approval of Michigan's plan for federal Every Student Succeed Act, otherwise known as ESSA, in November of 2017, the Michigan Department of Education has been working to implement the provisions of the law outlined in the approved plan. Today's presentation will provide a status update on the state's key ESSA-related implementation activities and how they fit overall into Michigan's top 10 and 10 strategic plan. So today we have a presentation by Vanessa, and I'm turning it over to you for your PowerPoint presentation. So
Okay.
thank you, Vanessa, for joining us again at the table today.
Last time for today, I think. So like Sheila said, we're a year into our ESSA implementation. We just wanted to take a minute and kind of review where we've been and where we're going. A brief recap for everyone. ESSA was signed in December of 2015, and we began, we were in the midst of our top 10 and 10 process. So we actually delayed the official start of our ESSA plan until we had a better sense of where we were trying to go as 10 and 10. One of the things we've always reiterated with ESSA is that it is not a plan unto itself. The goal isn't to meet the requirements of ESSA. The goal is to implement the 10 and 10 and to make sure that we're using ESSA as a vehicle to drive in the right direction. Having been here for 9 years and having worked on a number of federal plans, I think this is the first time where we did so explicitly make sure we knew where Michigan was going and then make sure we align this plan to our direction in terms of these type of federal plans. So when we talked about doing like an update on ESSA implementation, it was a little bit funny because it's like we don't talk about ESSA implementation. We talk about where we're at with the 10 and 10. That means that we did want to recap where we've gotten in a year and pull out the pieces that are ESSA related. So essentially, we got our plan approved in November 2017, and we've been implementing since then. Just a reminder that this was based on the 10 and 10 plan. We used a lot of different stakeholders and action teams. And again, it's a vehicle for us to move forward as a state, not just to comply with pieces of this law. So where are we now, and what are the pieces that ESSA has brought us that we're using as our ways to focus on some of these 10 and 10 aspects? So one is the increased focus on the whole child. Our stakeholder engagement, I actually have a slide for each of these, so rather than talk about them now, I'm going to go through the slides. In the 10 and 10, we talked about the importance of the whole child, of that well-rounded education, of making sure that we think about all the academic and non-academic factors, both in school and out of school, that go into ensuring our students are successful and the kind of outcomes we want for them in all of those ways. And with ESSA, at the same time that we had adopted 10 and 10, with ESSA opening up some more flexibility than No Child Left Behind or Flex had and aligning the federal discussion with the importance of measures beyond academic achievement, it gave us a chance to align some of those vehicles or align some of those processes and procedures with this goal. So as a department, we've adopted a definition of the whole child. We're working on measures both in the accountability system, but that's kind of the minimum. It's really about the supports and the abilities of districts to understand what they should be doing to support the whole child. And one of our mechanisms for doing that is the work we've been moving forward, and we're going to spend time in January going through this with you in greater detail. The work we've been moving forward with what we're calling MICIP, Michigan's Integrated Continuous Improvement Process. So behind the scenes, one of the business processes that happens here at the department is handing out grant funds. And under NCLB, the title funds, you had to have a needs assessment, you had to have a plan, and then you got your title money. Over time, other funding streams came along. They all said you have to do a needs assessment, you have to have a plan. Some funding streams don't require a plan, some do. But what we had come to was a place where people were doing needs for this, needs for this, needs for this, plans for all these different things, as opposed to an integrated approach. ESSA and the 10 and 10 gave us a chance to say, rather than tinkering around the edges, we need to actually rebuild the guts of this work, the guts of the behind the scenes stuff. My tagline that I keep saying is bring our processes in alignment with our promises. So we can say be whole child focused, but if we don't have processes in place that facilitate districts doing that, that's not, it's an uphill climb. So like I said, through ESSA, although this is not per se required by ESSA, we arrived at the need to rebuild our needs, plans, and funding into a more integrated and less siloed approach. We've also been continuing to work on our stakeholder partnerships, and the one that I want to hold up right now is our work with the Indigenous Education Initiative. Again, ESSA required at a new level than before consultation with Michigan's 12 federally recognized tribes and guidance for local tribe level consultation with the LEAs. What that's given us opportunity to do is to engage with our Indigenous populations in a different way, in a more integrated and authentic way, to really think about how we're serving all of our students and what we need to do for that government-to-government consultation, and to ensure that citizens of the tribes are served more appropriately, both by ESSA but by our education system as a whole. So again, ESSA might have been the vehicle in or the requirement, but it's a much larger work. And we see these requirements coming in CTE, in early childhood, and it gives us a kind of a framework or maybe a bookshelf guidelines, I think somebody said guardrails earlier, a structure in which to have an ongoing dialogue with the tribes that will help us improve our delivery of education and other services to these students. As you all know, we updated our accountability system. This certainly got a lot of attention here at the board and took a lot of time and stakeholder engagement. So right now we have our parent dashboard with increased transparency. We launched that a year ago. We're getting ready to launch the next phase shortly. And then we did launch our accountability index. We're in the second of a 3-year cycle and really focusing on growth and then that school quality and student success measure. One of the things that's been important with ESSA, and I want to keep reiterating this, is that I think we realized as a state, as a nation, I think the federal conversation moved a little bit, that finding the low-performing schools or districts is not enough. The question really comes down to, so what? What are the supports? What are we going to do? What are we going to do to improve systems versus just labeling individual buildings? And then how are we at the state going to differentiate our levels of support? That's the partnership district model, right? They get intensive supports and then a more middle layer of kind of targeted supports and then basic support for all districts. I think where we've gotten to in terms of accountability and the partnership district model is more of a focus on the so what, on improving the outcomes, and less on changing the metrics or debating about the metrics. It remains to be seen what the coming months bring us. Partnership district model, again, something not solely required by ESSA. What ESSA required us to do is to have a way to intervene with schools identified for comprehensive support and improvement. We were working on the partnership model already, so the partnership model is our solution to what does Michigan do about low-performing schools and districts. Locally led, multiple partners. We got some early results from that evaluation of the partnership district work that Dr. Strunk and Dr. Cohen are doing for us. And one of the pieces of feedback was that people do feel this is more collaborative, more positive. It is about the positive change, about a partnership, as opposed to labeling, sanctioning, negative, no supports, kind of leaving people out there, or not no, the intention was never no supports, but I don't know if that's how people felt. So whether the intention was that or not, that wasn't how it was experienced by schools who were labeled low performing. Agreement drives the improvement plan, and we have our liaison in place to facilitate those MDE supports. And then this is just to show you, the other thing we did with ESSA is we made sure that whatever we put in ESSA was aligned with other areas. So 3 key ones to pull out. ESSA does not largely do much about our educator workforce programs. It's the laws and regulations and programming around educator workforce is not largely required by or governed by ESSA, but there are a few key intersections, mostly around highly qualified and Title II money. So we made sure, you see in the Venn where the circles overlap, we made sure that that part was aligned with our larger strategic initiatives and plans in the educator workforce. Same thing with special ed and early childhood. Again, they have different funding streams, different laws, but there are overlaps or intersections with ESSA. So we did more coordination, more articulation, more clarity for districts on how they can use some of the vehicles that ESSA brings, like title funding to fund their early childhood programs, and how to think about that transition P8 up into K-12. Again, some of which ESSA has authority over, but not all of it. So we darkened these Venn parts of the circles so we can make sure that ESSA wasn't going in a different direction than we're going with the other work. We did hand out, we had Title II statewide activities, Title IIA statewide activities. That's to support educators and learning. We convened a stakeholder work group to do that and handed out grants to 72 districts to support high-quality professional development. That was an investment we made there, again, in working with our stakeholders. And then I think the big final note is we have, in addition to asking how can ESSA support our goals, we've also engaged in more of a dialogue with USED and tried to push back and say when ESSA doesn't work for Michigan. So customizing it to be what Michigan can be. Or if we absolutely can't customize it, knowing that we've pushed all the way to the end of the road on that. So here are a few things we've requested, and we've been busy with waivers once we got it approved. We have a waiver for 1% cap on alternate assessments. The renewal of that waiver is currently out for public comment. So that is, in ESSA, it says only 1% of students can take the alternate assessment, the MyAccess. We know in Michigan that number is closer to 2.5% who need to take it based on their IEPs and what's an appropriate assessment for them. So we need a waiver to that cap. We wrote a waiver to allow locally determined assessments, innovative assessments, up to 5% of districts who could do a different assessment system that they would determine. Yes.
What purpose would that serve locally? Like what might a local district use to
For an
develop an
assessment?
alternative assessment?
So perhaps portfolios, perhaps performance-based assessments. Superintendent Wiston's vision was that maybe districts have some really innovative ways that they judge student performance, and that it would be nice to give a small portion of districts the flexibility to use those ways instead of the M-STEP. USED was less than enthusiastic about this waiver and declined to grant us this waiver. And they have pointed us toward the Innovative Assessment Pilot waiver, which is the innovative authority in ESSA. The Innovative Assessment Pilot is less flexible than what we asked for. We just asked for kind of a carte blanche to let 5% of districts do something else. The way USED defines an innovative assessment is that a set of districts agree to do a different thing that they all do together. At the same time, they're still taking the M-STEP so we can show comparability. And then eventually, if you prove that they're comparable, the districts could perhaps give this instead of that. We're working through whether or not we want, so that was why we declined the first round to go in for that. We said that's pretty restrictive. We don't really want double testing. We don't really, that's not how we're thinking about innovation in assessment. Again, trying to work toward.
Essentially, the innovative assessment should benefit students, not necessarily data collection.
Yeah, I mean, I think from USED's perspective, the point is the core of ESSA around assessment still focuses on annual assessment of all students so that we can have comparable data on particularly the different subgroups, and so we can understand gaps and where they need to be closed and where they don't. So moving away from annual assessment to something else, it still needs to be something where the score from this or the result from this is relatively comparable to the result from the thing everybody's taking, so that we don't lose kids out of the system. That's US Ed's thinking about this, right? And yes.
Is it wanted to? Thanks. So the legislation that's for the public innovation districts, as I understand it, they would not be subject, according to the state legislation, to the same assessments. So wouldn't that be in violation of ESSA? Or how does that?
Yes. I mean, federal law requires all students to take the same assessments in grades 3 through 8 and 11 in ELA and math, and then once per grade span in science and social studies. And that's a common misconception with ESSA when people say, you've got so much more flexibility in assessment than you had under NCLB. You did not really get much more flexibility. They made the waiver, and they talk some about, you can have tests that measure one grade above and below, but not a lot of the core thing of the annual assessment of all kids is still there. So, and then we have 2 that are pending, our science assessment field testing waiver, which we talked to the board about, and our English learner assessment waiver, to have some more flexibility in how we include English learner data in the accountability system. So what's next? We're continuing with stakeholder engagement. And really, like I said, we don't largely get people together around the ESSA plan anymore. We get people together around aspects of the ESSA plan or aspects of the 10 and 10. So we're really focusing on the MyKit build out, and again, looking forward to talking with you all next month about that. And then focusing a lot right now on this tiered supports to schools. So while we've kind of ironed out partnership districts pretty well, we want to think more about that middle layer. Those, you're not quite partnership districts, and you're not just a general district who doesn't really need much from the state. In the middle, there's a big middle layer that needs more targeted assistance on key things. A lot of that will generate out of MyKIP when they do their comprehensive needs assessment across all of the whole child areas. Hopefully we'll find districts saying, we really need to focus on our after-school programming, or we really need to focus on early childhood. We really have a struggle with special education, and then we can triage our supports to meet their needs. And then we have some amendments to the plan going to US Ed in early spring 2019, mostly technical in nature, but continued cleanup. And we did just have an audit? I don't think that's what they call it, a site visit, whatever. They came and reviewed our plan, so monitoring visit, which that's just the natural cycle of things. So there may be a couple tweaks there, but largely things are moving along. We're pleased with how we've been able to use this as an opportunity to engage in broader conversations, and we're looking forward to what the next year brings us. Sheila?
Okay. Vanessa, thank you for that update. Are there additional questions or comments from board members? Okay,
Well, I guess I would just say, do we communicate so our people in Congress that are from Michigan kind of maybe changes we'd like to see in ESSA? That to accommodate maybe the innovative.
Yep. So we don't have a large federal legislative outreach branch. It's OPCA handles state and federal, and obviously state is much more emergent most of the time. We do annually go to the legislative conference that CCSSO hosts, and at that point we visit our representatives and talk, and we have over time encouraged more flexibility in ESSA implementation. And about the need for flexibility in several areas of ESSA implementation. The rhetoric needs to meet the enactment by the department, the U.S. Department of Ed. So you'll hear this kind of speeches from a variety of sources, and then when the rubber meets the road, the reality is a little different than what people are saying. So we've shared those kind of pieces. I don't sense a great hunger at the federal level to touch this legislation. It took them, 8 years to reauthorize it? So, yeah. But we do continually explain what we're doing and what we'd like. Yes, to the extent that we engage with the.
Thank you.
Just to add to that question, when we've traveled to NASB, that's been a good time for board members to give input and to hear nationally on what other states are dealing with as it relates.
Thank you. And Vanessa, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we will go on to the next item on the Committee of the Whole agenda, which is an update on the Office of Partnership Districts. The Office of Partnership District today. We'll provide an update on the review of goal attainment process. As you know, in the partnership agreements, there are 18-month goals and 36-month goals. So we put a process in place for our partnership districts to provide us with a review of their goals and where they are in attaining those goals. And at the table today, we have Bill Pearson, our new school reform officer and director of the Office of Partnership Districts, as well as Luana Shelton, the interim assistant director of the Office of Partnership District, and also Dan Ledoux, who is the supervisor of the Office of Partnership Districts. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and get started. We just hit the first. We're going to give you a brief updates on introducing our new director, of course, and where we are with the goal attainment conferences that are coming up in January, and just finishing it off a little bit with our theory of action and work that we've done together at our OPD retreat.
As I said earlier, I'm anxious to get started. I'm on a big, steep learning curve. I've been here 7 days. Wanda's done a great job answering questions. We meet daily. I'm meeting a lot of people, learning how everything intersects here. Today is what I know, board meetings. So I'm getting involved, and Dan's going to, do a presentation. We still have some organization to put in place so that we're prepared when we get to the end of the 3 years of round one. There's 8 districts. As you're going to hear in a few minutes, the first 18 months, our review is coming up, and we have some information that is going out to the districts, and then we're going to review all that and get an understanding of where we think those first 8 districts are. So my background is pretty extensive in school districts, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Dan.
Information that I'm going to share with you, this is an update. We gave you a very high-level overview back in the November meeting. We're going to get a little more detailed. I want to recenter and talk a little bit about the tenets of the partnership model, remembering that districts are the drivers of their own turnaround, that improvement is at the district level. The third item is that they engage multiple stakeholders, or as we would call them, partners. And then the last part is that they determine their own measures of improvement. So if you kind of use that to structurally think about what we're going to go through, or I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes. And what we're talking about right now is this 18-month goal attainment. So we have 36 months, which is 18 months away for our first group, but right now we're at 18 months. And so this is that fourth item I mentioned, where we're talking about districts setting their own measures of improvement. And so in a little bit more than a month, we're going to be going out to our districts and engaging them in some conversations. But I want to talk a little bit about the structure of that. When we do go out, the end goal is that we'll walk out with an outcome. And that outcome is that the district/school will be on track, or they'll be off track with progress, or they'll be off track with limited progress. In the Office of Partnership Districts, we engaged both internal and external stakeholders to identify exactly what does that look like. So when we talk about on track, what does that mean for a school to be on track? Or in the case of being off track or off track with limited progress, what does that look like? And so that's the outcome when we go out and meet with our districts in December and February. So I want to draw your attention. You should have a piece of paper that says review of goal attainment. It's got a little table in the bottom half and some narrative in the top half. A couple things that I want to point out to you. So this entire review of goal attainment process has 3 phases. The first phase, which we're just starting, is a collection of evidence. And so districts will be submitting evidence aligned to each of their goals. Those goals might be a process goal, where maybe they're implementing a particular system. It might be an outcome goal where they're using internal data. It might be an outcome goal where they're using state assessment data. And that collection of evidence is where they'll document their progress in meeting those goals. The second part is that conference, where we are actually on site at each of our districts, and we are going to engage in a collaborative conversation centered on those goals, centered on a self-assessment that they've completed during the collection of evidence, and then the department's assessment of their goal attainment. So the conversation is regarding that alignment between those two pieces, the district self-assessment and then the department's assessment of their goals. So it's not, the conversation isn't about whether or not the school is on track or off track. That comes out of the conversation based upon their goal attainments. And then the last part is where we walk out the door with a collaborative understanding of whether that school is on track or off track. Then the other piece of paper that we shared with you is, in essence, kind of a little guide for districts to help prepare for that conference. Part of the conference is they have an hour and a half or thereabouts to tell us their story, what's going on in their district, to share the evidence, but share other things that we might not be able to collect in terms of a piece of paper or a document. So that hour and a half is for them to share their story, and then we use that information as we come to a consensus on the goal attainment, and then ultimately the outcome of being on track or off track. Next slide, this is our schedule, starting first in Muskegon Heights in early January, and then concluding in February. This is just the first round of districts, so it's only 8 districts that we'll be going out site and having our structured conferences with.
In February, just a quick question, will
Yeah,
we
go.
get like a report of that, or do you think maybe March will be the time that?
We'll probably try to do it both February and March. Will you go back to that calendar? We did have a couple of, I want to say Bridgeport Spalding and River Rouge actually had to do a little bit of rescheduling. So, it takes a little bit of work to get everybody to the table. And now that we have Dr. Pearson on board, just making sure the calendars all meet up. So, yeah, it would make sense, Nikki, that we'll report something out to you in February, and then an overall nice comprehensive piece in March.
So in the gathering of data, I'm just wondering who you gathered data from, and I'm hoping it wasn't solely the superintendent, but you had gathered data from independent sources outside of the superintendent. Is that, so my question is, who did you gather data from, and what are the independent sources of that data?
So we would be working through the superintendent, and I'm sure that they would have a team on site that they would be submitting data. Now, the data that they submit doesn't necessarily have to be what we traditionally think of as academic data, or, it could be anything that might relate to. For example, we could have, one of the pieces that they had was to implement that system, and so they can document that they have evidence of that submission. The other part to remember, too, is that districts are in control of this process. So if they have other entities that want to submit data, that is certainly a possibility that an outside entity will be submitting some data.
Yeah, because I know when they initially created the partnerships, that it was important to have parents, important to have teachers, and if there was a union, the union representative, it was important to have other people in the community doing the initial assessment. So, and I know Brian, that was something Brian was very conscientious about, making sure it was a variety of voices to really get at the problem. So, I think it might be a problem if you have a superintendent who might not want to reveal all the information that needs to be assessed. Like teacher turnover or whatever it is. There might be problems that the state should be considering that a superintendent might not be bringing forward. So I'm or be in control of. So that's why I just encourage that when in gathering the data is not to rely solely on a superintendent, but to have it be just checked with other, like this initial group that was started to make sure that the integrity of the information, that it's really, that problems that existed are really truly getting addressed for those kids. So that's, I think,
If
my
we get
concern.
data at the 18-month review, match with what happens after 36 months. Problem. So,
Right, right, but still, you don't want to wait till the 36th month to, you know, you want to have that stuff coming out now and having, like, having conversations with perhaps the, you know, somebody who's in the PTA or the president of the teachers union at that place to just double check the information and see if there's other voices that need to be listened to about what the concerns might be at the school. That's my only.
So I would make two comments on that. One, to go back to the basic tenet that this is driven by the district. We are not the ones saying how to collect your data. We're saying present your data. And two, it was the districts that they established their own goals.
Okay,
So
yeah.
it's important for whatever they establish to bring the data to support that.
Right, so as a partnership model, and like I said, initially, it was, there was a team that met that was required under the partnership model, which, and I would say that the district is more than a superintendent. A district is everybody in that district that makes it work. So, and I think the risk of relying on one person is that there's a risk that important information is not going to be gathered, and we only have 18 more months to really ferret out what those problems are. So maybe I don't understand the role of the state if it's only to have the superintendent set goals and then say whether he met the goals or not. I thought it was more involved than that. I thought it was more a deeper dive, so.
And it's my understanding, Michelle, that it is. So I'm looking at the information that the partnership districts are getting from us, and we're asking that these presentations be collaboratively presented, that it's not just the superintendent, that the superintendent or that the district leadership team thinks who needs to be at the table having this conversation,
Right.
who's bringing the different data points to the table and presenting them. So the focus isn't solely on the superintendent bringing the data and the department only meeting with the superintendent, but looking at the
Right.
different partners who need to be at the table.
But I'm just suggesting, instead of having the superintendent decide who is going to be at the table, to talk to independent entities outside of the control of the superintendent to get a more, getting other independent sources of information. So I think, and I would argue, that if there's been an elected representative of the teachers or the parapros or whoever, that they should be consulted not independently, or the parents. They should be consulted in a mechanism if they have an elected PTA parent or somebody like that, that they should be consulted by the state about what they consider the concerns to be, just to get a fuller, richer view of what the concerns are so that we get it right in the end. That's all,
Thank you. Thank you for those
yeah.
suggestions and ideas. Pam?
And my thought, and I think, Dr. Pearson, what you were going to is that it would behoove those districts to have the insight, because 18 months, you get it right, 6 months or whatever, 36 months, you'll hopefully have fine-tuned it. But every meeting that we've had the presentation, just about, we've really strongly encouraged that the liaison or whomever is going into the districts make sure that they have an eye to whether or not districts are including representation from community and whomever else at the table, because at this point, 18 months, you're hoping that the whole community or a representation of community in the full sense of community has an understanding of what's in that partnership model, because now at 18 months, if you interview someone, they need to know what's in that partnership agreement, and be able to then judge them, or I don't want to use the word judge, but critique their success based on what's in that agreement. And I guess if you are meeting with people outside, then, I mean, I guess you're looking for input to adjust that agreement. And I don't know when those are opened up to to do that. So I guess my concern would be is two things. Yes, we definitely are pushing for that involvement and making sure that parents, teachers, unions, everyone has input. But at the same time, you want to make sure that if you're critiquing someone, you're critiquing them based on what they said that they were going to do. Some of the input that you might get may be that what they said they were going to do isn't going to meet the mark. So I guess that's a concern.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I guess I don't want to sound like I'm changing my tune from prior meetings where I said I hope the state's not heavy-handed, but I mean, Michelle brings up a really good point that when you say it's district-driven, there's more than just the superintendent that comprises a district. I know we don't want to undermine a superintendent, a local superintendent, but you know, as we're battling this A to F even this hour, and you know, the main driver of that is poor performing schools, and they want to just be very cold in that bill and shut them down. Just, you know, very, you know, we said this is a better way to partnership and I think to make sure it's a better way, you really don't want to just make it based on one person's data-driven, you know, that's just as cold. I mean, we want it to be the community coming together. So we really do want to hear from the community as the state, because this is the alternative to just shutting them down. If we remember, you know, a little over a year ago, they were just going to flat out shut them down. And we, I think, had a good role in persuading the governor's office to return it here and to be more compassionate and more individually district and school driven in the solution. So we really do have a vested interest that we get it right, and that we don't want 36 months, they've met some metrics, but all the teachers are upset by, you know, the horrible things that had impacted. The parents are ready to leave or leaving, and, you know, I mean, it's upheaval, even though they met their metrics, and, you know, maybe there's considered somewhat of a success to some. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want us to be heavy-handed, and yet I do want to make sure it's not just one person, not just the superintendent. I mean, I don't want to undermine local control, and this local board did hire this local superintendent, yet we're kind of giving them an alternative to shutting down. Or, you know, so I mean, I hope they appreciate the idea that we may want others involved, and we may want it to be a more holistic win, as opposed to a few metrics that, you know, a local superintendent can force everybody to teach to the test and get rid of all other classes. And I mean, it could just be a disaster and still look good in testing, but it may have bad repercussions long term. So long way of saying I agree with Michelle. I'm not contradicting what I've said in the past, that I don't want us to be heavy-handed, just getting a full view of what a win means. It doesn't mean a few numbers getting a little bit better. It means the school or the district doing better.
So the one thing that we don't typically share with you guys is the work that the liaisons do, and now some of the other units do. And I can tell you from personal experience and from the reports I get back and forth, when the liaisons are interacting with the districts, they are typically interacting with teams. They don't just typically meet with a superintendent. In fact, the communication with maybe only a superintendent actually comes more at my level or Dr. Pearson's level, or it was Kyle, for example, that, you know, they might have contacted in the past, or even Vanessa in the past. because the structure has changed now. That's the only reason I'm mentioning those. So we're not really anticipating a one-man show because I don't think there's ever been a setting that we've had that situation. Our liaisons in each district, again, they set up, did they want quarterly, did they want monthly? I think while I was the PAL for DPSCD, I think we met monthly, and it was a whole team of people that we did it monthly. We actually had a name for the team. So I just want to assure you of that piece because I don't share that some of those aspects of what the office does. And I can't tell you really too many instances that a liaison would go to a district to one of their meetings or participate or provide something that it's typically not to a team. It typically always is to a team, if that helps.
Team that the superintendent selects.
Well, it depends.
So I'm talking about having somebody independent of that circle, but I won't be, I'm not gonna beat that horse, but it's a little, what I'm saying is a little bit different than what you're saying is happening. I'm saying do an assessment at the 18-month mark about where things are, and not just with the same people, but people that are in the community to get a fuller understanding and make sure everybody's on the same page, and that also information is not being filtered through the team, that you have really good information to move forward with. So that's
We'll take note on that. And just, again, please be aware that those teams include their community partners and signatories as well. I think of Kalamazoo, who typically has 19 people around the table because it's all the different community partners that come as well.
And I'm assuming these teams were, from the start, part of it in the goal-making process, which you said these are their goals. So naturally, they'll be a part of it all the way throughout, which is what makes the partnership model.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Were you finished with the presentation?
I was going to share that we did a staff retreat after all the work that we've been doing to kind of retool the office. We came up with our theory of action, which is if the partnership district, the Office of Partnership District reduces barriers and connects partnership districts to resources, then every partnership district has the opportunity to realize their partnership agreement goals. And we've decided that we're going to use positioning partnership districts for success as our little tagline on different things that you'll see. So I just wanted to share that little celebration that we did this past month.
Thank you, Luana and Dan and Bill, and we'll open it up again to comments and questions from board members. Pam?
So, and thank you again, and I just want to, because there's new staff, and so we're happy to have you all on board. I just want to reiterate what I usually do all the time, and I think that, again, this gets to what Michelle as well as Tom have said, is that every district is different, and that's why we're doing this. And every district has different thoughts on innovation and they're at different levels of innovation. And so one of the pieces that I know is that different districts are going to have to be encouraged to think outside of the box, to partner with a variety of people, to open up themselves to be critiqued, but also to be helped by different sets of partners. And so I'm just hoping that we really take the liberty or take the, use our expertise to help them to think outside of the box. So then when it comes time for them to be critiqued, everyone has, as Nikki has said, have been a part of building what that partnership agreement looks like. My concern right now is that at 18 months, you might introduce partners and they're like, this isn't going to help us get to where we need to get to. But that's not what we should be critiquing them on at 18 months. We should be critiquing them on what they said that they were going to do. The other thing is maybe we look at an opportunity and see when we do open that agreement up, and maybe that they look at, okay, what other partners do you need? And then those partners can help to, again, to come to the table to build that partnership and build it maybe better. I had the opportunity of sitting at the table when our initial partnership agreement was made in Saginaw, so I had some insight. But as I look at the documentation that you gave us and let me say this, the district drove that. I was a part of it. And as I look at the documentation that you gave us maybe about 2 months ago that looked at all of the partnerships side by side, I could see where some districts have built a better, maybe a more comprehensive partnership. And so as you all, I know you all share that with the different districts and maybe helping them to think outside of the box. And then there won't be surprises with the community. So, but thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you for your presentation, but also board members, thank you for your feedback today on our process. Thank you for your ideas and suggestions, which we will take back and use them as we plan to move forward with our 18-month reviews. Thank you. All right, we will move now on to the regular meeting. We have the approval of the State Board of Education minutes. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of November 1st, 2018?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Support.
Discussion? All in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we have the approval of the minutes of the regular and committee of the whole meeting of November 13th, 2018. May I please have a motion to approve these minutes? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And now we will have the reports of the co-presidents.
Well, I appreciated meeting with Ricardo of Ray and Associates. As I shared with him, I appreciate the both the breadth and the depth of experience that he and other principals in the firm bring to our superintendent search. And they are the people that brought us, that guided us in the process, that gave us Brian Whiston, and I'm anticipate a similarly happy choice with this board later this spring. I'll have a few words of appreciation for people at the reception, so I will bring my remarks to a close.
Very briefly, I want to reiterate our gratitude to Eileen and Richard for their years of service, and to welcome Judy and Tiffany to the board. Thank you for being here today. And on top of that, just to wish everyone a happy holidays and a safe new year. And I hope you all have a chance to settle down, relax, and enjoy your friends and family.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the interim state superintendent report, and today my report's going to take on a different flavor. In the past, I've presented to you activities and events in which I have participated in the past month, but today I'm going to talk about a professional learning experience that the deputy superintendents, their special assistants, and the chief of staffs and I have had over almost the past year. And the shift in our work at the department and the priorities that we've identified for the next 2 to 3 years. So one of the things that we know that's happening in state education agencies across the nation, there is a national shift from education agencies being compliance-driven to one that is support-driven. And so to move to a support-driven agency, it does take a new mindset and it does take a new structure. And so in the department, we have engaged in work to make this shift occur in the Department of Ed so that we are moving from a compliance-driven organization to one that it provides technical assistance, provides support, and provides better customer service. So I'm going to do a little walk down memory lane before I move you to share with you the work that we've been doing most currently. And that is to show how the work that we are doing in the department fits into our top 10 and 10. So you'll see on the slide the components, most of the components of Michigan's top 10 and 10 strategic plan. It includes Michigan's education vision, the Michigan's education mission, the 4 guiding principles, the 7 goals. What you don't see on the slide are the 44 strategies that are embedded into these goals and help reach the attainment of those goals. The work that we are doing in the department focuses specifically on goal number 7, which is to further develop an innovative and cohesive state education agency that supports an aligned, coherent education system at all levels: state, ISD, district, and school. And for us, the 3 important words in this goal is coherent education system. The next slide that you see are the graphic representation that you see on the wall and you've seen throughout MDE, and it is our representation of the top 10 and 10 strategic plan. There are 3 intersecting circles: the blue, which is learner-centered support; the goldenrod, which is effective education workforce; the red, strategic partnerships. And where these 3 circles intersect, this is the systemic infrastructure work that we are doing in the department. The work that we are doing around coherence and making the shifts in the department to become more of a customer service, more of a support-driven agency, focuses specifically on the systemic infrastructure component of our top 10 and 10 plan. A while ago, I shared with you that we had heard Michael Fullen, an international researcher and expert in the area of state education agency continuous improvement work. He spoke at the Governor's Education and Talent Summit back in March of 2017. He had read Michigan's strategic plan and he offered some feedback to us. He said that in strategic planning, you need to identify what your fast themes are or your fast boats. These are the actions that are going to jumpstart your strategic plan. They're going to give your strategic plan momentum so that you will see success. Success breeds success, and it will be an incentive to continue the work that you are doing on your strategic plan. So members of the deputy superintendents and I had an opportunity to hear Fullen's message. We brought this message back to the department and we created our action plan. And you heard me talk about the action plan as we were sharing with you our annual report. What we did with the action to create the action plan is the deputy superintendents and I went through every goal in the strategic plan and every strategy, and we identified the division that would be responsible for implementing those goals and for implementing each of those strategies. From there, we identified which actions we were going to take over the next year that would be tied to a strategy, tied to a goal. And we identified who within the department was going to do what actions were we going to take, by when, so we had a timeline, and then we wanted to know what evidence or what data collected would indicate that we had achieved those actions. We put that plan into place about a year ago, and we were monitoring our plan, and by the end of June, we had attained or we had met most of our actions. Simultaneously, about a year ago, the deputy superintendents and I decided that we really wanted to do a deeper dive into making a shift in the department from compliance to support, from compliance to technical assistance. And we really wanted to focus on the coherent aspect of the department, how to bring coherence to all of the systems within the department. And so we engaged in a book study on Michael Fullen's book called Coherence. We brought in an external consultant, a facilitator from REL Midwest, and he came in and met with us monthly from February to October. We spent 2 hours every month with the external facilitator talking about each chapter. We went chapter through Fullen's book, and we talked about what we were reading and the implications that information had for the work that we were currently doing, as well as the work that we were going to be doing into the future in order to make some shifts within the department. We also had one-on-one individual sessions with the facilitator so that we could have some time to talk to the facilitator about our leadership skills and developing those skills in order to move the department forward. In simple terms, coherence is defined as the shared depth of understanding about the nature of the work. And coherence is about bringing a group of leaders together that help to change the organization. They help to change the organization by collaboratively working together to make some fundamental shifts. And those fundamental shifts are reflected in the coherence framework, and there are 4 major elements to it. One is focusing direction. Another one is creating collaborative cultures. A third one is deepening learning. And a fourth one is securing accountability, and that accountability is both internal and external accountability. And at the center of all of these elements is the role of leadership. And it's not just leaders who are influencing the organization, but it's leaders who are working alongside others in the organization to help bring the change to the organization, to help move the organization forward. And the deputy superintendents and I are very committed to continuing to transform the Michigan Department of Education from a compliance-driven organization to an organization that provides technical assistance and support and customer service to our ISDs, our districts, and our schools. So focusing on, let's go back one more slide. Thanks, Jen. So focusing on the element called focus direction. In the book, Fullen says that as you are making shifts in your agency, you need to be selective in your direction that you are choosing. If you choose too many directions on which to focus, you will not accomplish them. That you need to narrow your focus and put your energies into these priorities. And so this past summer, the deputy superintendents and I, with their special assistants and the chief of staffs, went on a retreat. And we went on the retreat for the purpose of delving into what we had been reading and discussing in Fullen's book. And we selected 3 priorities that were going to drive the work within the department within the next 2 to 3 years. And these priorities will help sharpen the focus within the department. They will help us with cross-agency work, so that's those collaborative cultures, and they will help us to link the work that we are doing in the department to the top 10 and 10 strategic plan. So our 3 areas of priority are literacy, whole child, and prenatal to 8, or P8. Talking a little bit about literacy. We know that literacy is an essential skill for all of us, and it begins and it starts in a child's early development and it continues through life. We know as educators that we need to provide students with the skills and the strategies that they need to have in order to communicate. And by communicate, we mean to be able to read and write, to be able to collaborate. And by collaborate, we're talking about speaking and listening, and to be able to think critically. Instrumental to the work that we are doing in literacy is what you heard earlier today about our essential practices for literacy instruction. You heard about that during the GSRP presentation, and you heard about our essential practices for literacy in previous presentations. It really is providing the essential practices that should be occurring in every classroom, every day, in every school, touching every student in Michigan. We are very fortunate to have these essential practices created through a partnership with the Michigan Association of Intermediate School Michigan School Administrators, and their General Education Leadership Network. In addition to the practices, the essential practices that have been developed, there are also training modules that have been developed, and you heard about those today too. And though we have 21 courses that we have partnered with Michigan Virtual University to create, these are training modules that tie directly to the essential practices. The beauty of these modules is that they showcase Michigan teachers in Michigan classrooms expertly using these essential practices with their teachers. We are so very proud of the work that we have been doing with the essential practices and with the training modules. And most recently, MDE, in partnership with Michigan Virtual, received the International 2018 Telly Award for these modules, specifically the modules focusing on pre-kindergarten and kindergarten through third grade. So we're very proud of the recognition received, but we're also very, very proud of the extraordinary collaboration that we have in this state around literacy supporting all of our students.
Congratulations.
Thank you. To our team. The next focused area is whole child, and you heard Vanessa reference whole child in her ESSA presentation. This is really about every child in every school, in every community, deserving to be safe, healthy, engaged, supported, and challenged for long-term success both in their career and in college, and then afterwards in life. Michigan has developed, our MDE has developed a definition of whole child. It's based on the work around the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, ASCD. It focuses on whole child, whole school, and whole community. It's a framework that focuses on academic as well as non-academic needs of the student, and it brings it together in an integrated approach. In the department, we are working to create an action plan that has input from each of the offices around whole child. Our next priority is prenatal through 8. This work in the department will ensure that every child born in Michigan has a great start, and that will continue through age 8. It allows us in the department to make a connection between the work in our early childhood area with our K-12 area, and also be supportive of all the offices within the department. This initiative or this priority is going to be launched in January. So next month we are launching this priority. So those are the 3 priorities that we'll be focusing on in the next 2 to 3 years. We believe that these priorities will help us to develop coherence within the department, will help us to better direct our staff and resources within the department, and also provide us with a better means by which to assist and provide support to our external partners. Going back to the coherence framework, we have plans for the future. We are going to continue creating collaborative cultures and continuing deepening our learning. The deputy superintendents, the chief of staffs, as well as the special assistants and I are going to continue our learning. We're going to engage in another book study using the book Leadership, Key Competencies for Whole System Change. We are in the process of developing cross-office action plans for each of the 3 priorities. And then we are also creating a monitoring system so that we can monitor the implementation of our action plans to make sure that we are on target for achieving the actions that we have identified. And this is a slide that I like to use to demonstrate how this all flows together. And that is the work that we're focusing on really starts with our top 10 and 10 strategic plan. And from that plan, we've identified our 3 priorities that are definitely embedded in the work of our plans. From those 3 priorities, we are going to establish an action plan for each of them, and that action plan will have the voice of each of the divisions and each of the offices within each division. We are going to create a progress monitoring system so that we will progress monitor the attainment of our actions using data that will tell us where we are, not only in achieving our action plan, but helping us to know if we are on the right track for becoming a top 10 and 10 education state. So I've had an opportunity to share this plan with a couple of professional conferences within the last month, as well as I did a YouTube on our priorities and the work that we're going to be doing in the department over the next 2 to 3 years, and have received some very, very positive feedback from the field and from our local districts. So this is a high overview of the work that we're going to be doing and the focus for the next 2 to 3 years. Stay tuned. I will provide you with more updates as I present future interim state superintendent reports. So I thank you for the opportunity to share this with you. And now I will turn to Laura Chang, our Teacher of the Year. And Laura is going to share with us her monthly update. Laura is a K-5 reading and math interventionist at Vicksburg Community Schools. Joining her at the table is Jim Goodspeed. He is Region 4 Regional Teacher of the Year, and Jim teaches English and History at Fulton High School in Middleton, Michigan. Welcome to both of you, and Laura, we look forward to both your presentation and hearing from Jim today.
Thank you. All right, well, with Thanksgiving just behind us and the holidays ahead of us, I thought it would be appropriate to share some information about work that schools are doing around the state to encourage kindness and gratitude. But first, let's discuss the why behind these initiatives. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, positive and negative childhood experiences have a profound impact on the health and opportunities available to our students. These early experiences are a critical public health issue. The research in this area has been referred to as adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. The CDC has found that nearly 2/3 of adults reported at least one adverse childhood experience, and the majority of the adults who responded to the survey reported more than one. So this study looked at 3 categories of childhood experiences, including childhood abuse, neglect, and household challenges. Childhood abuse included emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. The neglect category included both emotional and physical neglect. And growing up in a household with substance abuse, mental illness, separation or divorce, and violence were all included in the household challenges category. Adults responding to the survey were given an ACE score of between 0 and 10 based on how many of these experiences in which they reported being exposed to as a child. ACEs have an immense impact on health and quality of life of students, as the study found links between adverse childhood experiences and risky behavior, psychological concerns, serious illnesses, and more. However, there's good news in all of this. I often think about the circle of control in my classroom. I can't control what happens in a child's home, but I can control the tools that my students are able to access to beat the odds and to overcome some of the results of this childhood trauma that they bring to the classroom. The Look for the Good project is designed to reverse some of the negative impacts of ACEs by equipping students with a wide range of positive actions and opportunities to put those actions into practice. This project gives students and teachers the opportunity to be constructive and creative while developing resources to use in their lives to make them more resilient. Harvard University reported that children who are grateful are happier. They're more cooperative in school and at home. They're more generous in their thoughts and actions, and they're more likely to use their strengths to enhance the community. So there are 4 main components in the Look for the Good project, including gratitude spots, a gratitude wall, You Matter letters, and kindness cards. Gratitude spots. These are placed throughout the school, on the floor. Students literally walk over the spot, and they're invited to think about what makes them grateful. They practice this. This is modeled and practiced. These spots are strategically placed in hallways all over the school, and they're areas in which students frequently travel to give kids the chance to step on the spot and share their gratitude. Gratitude wall. This is set up in a school to inspire the school community to be thankful and kind. Teachers and students alike, they add notes to the gratitude wall daily and they watch their gratefulness grow. You Matter letters. Built into the school day is an opportunity for students to write You Matter letters to someone in their life who matters to them. Students write a letter to a classmate, a teacher, a friend, family member, and describe how that person has impacted their life in a positive way. To take it one step further, the student delivers that letter in person to see the impact that this kind gesture can have on another person's life. Hundreds of kindness cards are passed between students and staff throughout the school to inspire acts of kindness. This not only recognizes the unique contributions of our school community, but builds a positive school climate where every student feels valued and loved and appreciated. So a school-wide gratitude campaign, like the Look for the Good project, gives students an opportunity to take ownership and an initiative to build gratitude, kindness, and tools for resilience. This isn't a teacher-led initiative. This is led by a core group of students who feel the need for this in their schools, and they drive all of these actions. But don't take my word for it. Let's watch a little video that students from Sunset Lake Elementary in Vicksburg have produced and filmed to illustrate this initiative. Maybe.
Volume.
Probably.
Any tips on that?
Well, do we have the cord hooked up to the sound?
I don't see one. Yeah. Thanks, Max.
Is that it?
I'm grateful for my family and friends. I'm thankful for our country and all of the rights and the freedoms that we have here. Grateful for minerals.
I am so thankful for all the kids in this building, little ones and big ones.
I'm grateful for soccer. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my family.
Teaching the whole child, nurturing the whole child, caring for the whole child is a critical component to student success in school. Now I'd like to introduce Jim Goodspeed, Regional Teacher of the Year from Region 4. He's going to take a few minutes to share a few points specific to his region.
Thank you for the opportunity to share with you this afternoon. I teach at Fulton High School up in Gratiot County, and we're a small rural school, probably around 775 students, somewhere in that vicinity, small d. And what I wanted to share today had two parts to what is really the National History Day project, how it affected my classroom, why I use it. I am coming off a 3-year hiatus of not using it, so I return next semester. But it's been a very successful method of instruction in the social studies area. This year's theme is Triumph and Tragedy in History. They issue a theme that students use, and they have one of 5 modes that they can go after that theme in what is a semester or year-long project. For me, it's a semester project because we're on 4x4 block and we're on a 2 9-week semester. So it's kind of an abbreviated program, which you would expect students to do maybe in an entire classroom over a school year. Down right there. So I typically have the students use the museum piece board. The reason I use Natural History Day is because the issue I've had in the classroom is how to cover so much material, but also how to get some of it to stick. So we have so much that kids have to cover in a world history course. In my situation, it's 1500 to the present, or even in U.S. history, when we're talking about 1890 to the present. So much material to do. How do we get something to stick so when they walk away from the class, they have something that's meaningful or something that's taught them about how to research, how to think, how to write. So with the NHD, I use this criteria. This is a picture from the Michigan History Day program, which is held, finals are held up at, not at Midland, Bay City, West Bay City High School. So I've used that. Well, 2 years ago, I was part of a group of 18 teachers that was chosen by National History Day to work with a program known as the ABMC project called Understanding Sacrifice. And it was then supported by the American Battle Monuments Commission. And what happened was I was assigned I was allowed to pick a veteran from World War II who was buried in a foreign cemetery. So one of our cemeteries abroad. And since the theme was World War II in the Mediterranean, I was given the Sicily Rome Cemetery, and I had to find a Michigan man that was buried there. And of course, I wanted someone who was close to home, which is Gratiot County. And I had to struggle to do that. So I ended up with a gentleman from Flint, Raymond Whitbrett, who was buried in this cemetery. And the project was for 10 months, you did a variety of activities and research. And in the end, you gave a memorial program for this veteran, but also you produced a set of lesson plans. And the 18 of us did this, and they're currently like in their third or fourth cycle of this program, and I was in the second group that did this. So it was very interesting. I mean, I got to go to Rome, I got to go to Sicily, to Rome, to southeast France. We ended up in Belgium, and a changing trip. But when I came home, I felt like there's something that's missing here. How do I take students? How can I take students to Rome? How can I take students to France? Pretty hard to do in a small setting. So I came back, I thought, what if we change this from, instead of a veteran who's buried in one of our cemeteries abroad, what if we work on veterans who are buried in our own county? And so I adopted it 2 years ago and changed it to Understanding Service with some of the same criteria. It had to be somebody who served Gratiot County, who's deceased. The student cannot be related to them. It has to be someone in the county primarily, and who served between World War I and I cut it off about the first Gulf War. So technically I said World War I through Vietnam, and these 4 individuals were all people that represent those 4 eras, and students worked on these over the course of the last 2 years. So it became a project I took into my English 11 class, which would be a semester-long project, which would lead to research, it would lead to writing, it would lead to concepts of how to understand history, how to use scope, how to document your sources. But most of all, these students would have to give their papers to these families. So we initiated it last year at the end of the school year, the Thursday or Friday before Memorial Day, to invite the community to come to this little school and invite family members to come in and receive the paper and also be a part of the short service we had. It was about 50 minutes. I thought, if we got 2 families to come and we got 10 people, we were going to do it anyway. And we had a small, up or down? There you go. We had a small, initial small response, but once we opened it to the community, surprising things began to happen. And, that one?
Yeah.
One right there?
Yeah.
This is only part of my group. We were able to fill the small media center. We had about 110 people come to this procedure and listen to these students talk briefly. Each student had to give a small 20 or 30-second biography, and then during the service we stopped it, and for 10 minutes we let the students interact with the family members. And we had about 110 show up, and we had a number of people who said, first of all, you wait till the second cycle to do this. Why don't you invite us? So my superintendent looked at me and said, you know what, we can grow this. So maybe this next year, our goal is to open this up as we do, we will be doing stories numbers 101 through 150, and we'll put it in the high school gym. And so we hope to open it up so that people from the first cycle who didn't have a chance to participate, and people from the community members that want to see like a short little presentation about the first 100 veterans that we did, but then also watch the current 50 that we're working on. And the students have their shortened, abbreviated post that they put on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Understanding Service, Gratiot County. You can go there, and we do periodic updates. But starting in mid-February, we will start to put these up, stories up one a day, one each weekday, running from mid-February until we get to the eve of Memorial Day weekend. And so they have people kind of a peek as to what's coming, and encourage people to come to the service. So in conclusion, it's National History Day has had a profound impact on my teaching. The project that we do, Understanding Service, has been a great healer in our community. We came out of, a couple years ago, great economic stress, many school districts, other stresses in the community. It's been a great bridge builder in our community. We don't ask the families for anything, we just ask them to come. We ask them to share their stories with kids. It's been a really good experience. So my big question is, why didn't I start this 10 years ago? I wish I had. It's one of my regrets. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you for your innovative programs that you shared with us today. Our next item, actually it's the first item on today's discussion action agenda, is a discussion on the state superintendent search. So I'm going to turn this part of the agenda to our co-presidents and have them facilitate this discussion. Thank you.
So Ray and Associates has been engaging in interviews over the last few weeks. I'm not sure if everyone at the board table has been interviewed so far, but I believe the goal was hopefully today to wrap that up.
Interviews with board members.
Yes.
Yes. All of them have been completed.
As of this morning.
Perfect. Then we're right on track for that. So one of the, I don't know if you have an agenda you want me to stick with, but one of the open questions we had from the last time that we got together was the salary for the superintendent. And so the department, I'm going to pass around a comparison. The comparison we saw last time didn't include every state in the nation. So by the comparison we had last time, it looks like we were under the average, and we're probably putting ourselves at a disadvantage if we were just looking at those particular states. However, the department has pulled together a list of every state, and based on this, it looks like we are actually doing well above average. So currently it's 216. And based on this, if you look at the estimated salary from 2019 to 2020, which for us, we don't know exactly what that'll increase to just yet, but it'll probably be a couple percent.
Yes, and we don't know because it is a civil service who determines the increase in salary, and that commission is meeting on Friday to determine what, if any, additional what, if any, increase in salary will occur for the next year and the following year.
Right. So if we just take what we know today, which is at least $216,000, I think there's really three questions that we need to ask ourselves. One is the pay at the rate that we have sufficient to recruit top candidates? The second question would be, where do we fall within the comparison to the other states? And then the final question is, we are in Michigan, and I think we need to be cognizant also of what other executives, state-level executives in the state make as well, including the governor. And so based on that information, as you can see, the estimated salary average in 2019-20 will be 189,708. So we're well above the average of where all of the states are. But as I was looking at this, I pulled out a few because there's obviously a couple in here that are way below market value. And I think it's not fair to throw those into the average because it really brings it down. So if you take the 5 lowest salaries out, then the average becomes 199,311. So we're still doing really well within the average, even taking out the 5 lowest. And for those who might be listening, the 5 lowest include Arizona at 92,000, which is just, I'm sorry to Arizona, but kind of silly. What's that?
It's elected, I think.
Is it? Well,
There's a
and
lot
then
of these that are elected.
yeah, and then there is like New Hampshire is 102, Rhode Island is 100. So those fall clearly well below what the average is. There's also 3 that are well above the average, and they top 300,000 a year. So if you took those 3 out, in addition to the bottom 5, then the average drops to 191,000. So I think we're still doing really, really well with 216,000, which we know is going to go up slightly. And I know I threw those numbers out quickly, so if anyone wants me to repeat that, let me know. The bottom line is, in my opinion, we are actually above average, and I would recommend that we not go to the legislature and ask to increase the salary. The other piece of that being that if you look at the other state level executive positions in the state superintendent actually makes more. So the governor, I think, is 169-ish, something like that.
Yeah, the state superintendent salary is above the governor's salary.
Yeah.
I think he or she gets two homes. One in,
Oh, that's true.
one in Lansing and one up in Mackinac.
Well, that is true. That there are some perks that come with being the governor of the state.
And we did look at the other cabinet positions.
The other cabinet positions still do not.
They're all under $200,000.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
we
this
can get a home for a
They're
superintendent.
not super happy to deal with us. That's
could, yeah, car allowance. I don't know,
I think
but
I think there's an investment person that makes a lot more actuary or something.
There could be, but these are heads of the department that would be comparable to the state superintendent position, as well as the attorney general and the secretary of state. Superintendent makes more than those positions as well.
This is just the salary. Then there's benefits and a lot of
Yes,
other
this is
things.
just
So
the
that's,
salary.
they will add to the package.
that's correct.
And I'm sorry, Cassandra, I missed when we said the mistake that we made at first that gave us a different outlook on.
It did include all of the states.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we have every state that we can compare to.
Okay.
And I would imagine, looking at our search firm, you will get a sense if there's a problem, right? I mean, if you are searching and nobody's, you're hearing, some probably that reject may let you know why potentially, and if you're hearing, you might come back to us and say, we got a problem, Houston, so.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you go first, and then I'll add mine.
And then we'll come back to some sense of an agenda, if you will, because there are 5 things we wanted to get through, so if that's okay, but this is great.
So what I wanted to add in terms of, you got to be careful when you look at the average, because a lot of the states are much lower in total population than the state of Michigan. I would look at the state of Michigan and compare it, say, with 10 other states that are in the same population range. You might look at, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and a couple of other states that are in similar size. And then look at that average, so you can break this down. But I think for now, you had set the salary, what, 216?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we're okay with that for now. We're going to come back to you in January to finalize the recruitment brochure. And at that point in time, we'll need to have a solid number to put in there. But you may want to go back and take a look at like the 10 states that are incomparable in population.
Go ahead. Have we looked at within, like throughout the state, what superintendents are making as well?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we've done that. And I would say it's probably comparable to what the state superintendent.
That would be my next question.
It all depends. ISD superintendents are paid a bit more than the state superintendent is. And some district superintendents are paid more. Many superintendents are paid less. Many district superintendents are paid less.
And I guess from your perspective, how is that perceived?
So I was thinking about the last time that the board hired a superintendent, which is when you hired Brian. And when I was looking at what the base salary was in 16-17, which was $164,000, and I believe that Brian was hired in at about $200,000. Is that correct? About $200,000, and there were a fair number of highly qualified superintendents who applied at that time. And I know that many districts and ISDs superintendent salaries had been frozen or experienced furlough days because it was a time when funding was tight in schools, districts, and ISDs, so salaries weren't seeing increases. So from my perspective, I think that $216,000 is a fair amount for state superintendent as compared to the state agents, the state department heads, and district department heads, district superintendents. And as we look at the comparable list of superintendents and their salaries on this chart, I think taking into account the number of students in a state, but I also think taking into account the number of employees within a state agency makes a difference too, because the size of the state education agency. And what we find is sometimes the size of the state education agency is not always comparable to the number of students within a state.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking other basic things like cost of living, which I know is not built into this chart, but I think Michigan is lower on that.
Good point.
Okay, so we're comfortable with where it's at for now, unless we come back with you with more information.
Yeah, just as we leave, just as a thought process, you have to do what's best for your environment. And I want to come back and introduce myself and so forth. This is the first time I've seen all of you, but I kind of walked in here with an inclination of 225, so you're not very far away, even if you choose to raise it at all, because you're talking about next year, number one. And if I put 3% on 216, I automatically get to 220, 222. So it's just a thought process. I don't, not to be disruptive whatsoever. I will tell you, in all due respects, Tom, that if you put down a salary and it's not sufficient and you go back, that becomes the slippery slope. Because they're going to negotiate up or attempt to probably anyway, or at least bring it up. So by really lowballing this and saying, well, we can go back, you all of a sudden backed up the entire system, number one. And by that time, your quality candidates have other opportunities in front of them. And this is a very good job. It's a very challenging job. It's a very good job. And for you to be in a very comfortable and affirmative position to know what you want, I think is very, very helpful in your part. So those are just some passing thoughts.
It would also depend on that person's, whoever your top candidate is, what their current salary is in the district that they're in at the time. And so.
I just want to be clear, this is not something we can necessarily just negotiate. It's legislatively driven. So if we want to increase the salary, we have to go to the legislature and ask them to do that. It's, that's why it needs to be a set salary, and this is what we're offering. There's not negotiation room here.
And that's fine, but
Yeah.
I think that's what
Can
you
we
put it
clarify
in
that?
somewhere.
Is that absolutely sure?
Yes,
Certain? I thought that
absolutely is true.
I thought at the last meeting it was that it's the total pot that's divvied up among the 6 or 7 unclassified or whatever.
that
So
is
it would
true.
just mean that some would give, we could also reduce the pay of some of the others, right?
They're under contract?
Well, I
So
mean,
there's already a
starting in
salary.
April or something?
How would we do that?
No,
Oh, we can't
I'm
do
just
that.
saying, so that would be the only way.
Yeah. but
Yeah,
that's
well,
not
there's two
very-
ways.
yeah.
No, maybe not a good way, but
There
But it is
technically are two
another
ways.
way, yeah.
There are, you look at the pot of money, and you.
That's what it was explained.
You look at the pot
Right.
of money, and that's the pot of money in which you have to operate and to provide salaries. One of the options is to go to the legislators and ask for an increase in that line item in the budget. Another would be to look at the existing salaries and decide who would get less in order to pay the superintendent more, which for morale in the department would be awful.
Unless somebody wanted to work 4 days instead of 5 or something. I don't know.
So those are the two options that are available.
Okay.
So if we are going to agree on a salary, I do need a motion to approve a salary.
So moved. 216.
Support.
Okay? Is there any more discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, the motion carries. So I'll turn it back over to Cassandra and to Dr. Z.
Turn it over to you.
We handed out a list of tentative stakeholders, and I'll let Michael lead that conversation on that.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let me just take 2 minutes. Ricardo asked, I know we talked on the phone a little bit, but first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Laura, congratulations. I actually have the privilege, since I was one of you for 8 years in Ohio, elected, and I was a city school district school board member for 8 years. So I have the privilege to this day of sitting on the Ohio Teacher of the Year selection panel. And Jonathan is a very good friend of mine, who's your colleague from Ohio at the moment. So I will tell him that we met.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, I see him often. So, no, thank you, and thank you, and thanks for your great presentation as well. And welcome soon. Before we move into the stakeholders, very briefly, as I said, so I had the opportunity for my first 11 years to work in education. Both my degrees were in education. And I actually moved to Columbus, Ohio when I was 26 years old to work at the Ohio Department of Education, ironically, which is where I sat for 3 years, and then I worked for a national education organization. And I stumbled over creating a very large events and promotion company and sold it 2 years ago. And while I was getting ready to leave the state board, I created an education consulting firm that deals with state organizations, state associations, and state projects. And so Ray and Associates considered a client, and when there is work in Ohio, Southern Michigan, Western Pennsylvania, myself, and then 2 other people in Ohio, as they say, get work. We're thrilled to be here to help Ricardo and Ryan and be an asset to the work. And I am thrilled to watch another state board operate. It's very interesting. There are similarities and there are differences. And it's fascinating from my own view. So, but thank you for your service. And for you to all run for office that starts out with an 8-year sentence is very impressive. We only went 4 at a shot, and we're term limited. So, but seriously, thank all of you for your service. And Sheila, thank you for yours. That's not an easy seat you sit in. So, congratulations on good work. All right, let us move along. What we want to talk about are stakeholders, and these are people that we actually interview, similar to the way we've spoken with each of you respectively, and respectfully, hopefully. And so we begin to get a gist of what their feelings are and what one should look for in a state superintendent in the state of Michigan, and what are those things about Michigan that could be attractive to a candidate if they're not from here, or even if they are, why should they stay? We would also like, because you don't want to do a broad-based survey, which is fine, but we have this survey instrument is 33 characteristics, and we ask people to pick the 10 they choose. We would like to use the survey in our interviews with the stakeholders. We would like to use the survey and ask each of you to do it, and in a very limited way, not necessarily posted for, as you had said, you don't necessarily need that. But I think this also, in addition to the questions and what we bring back to you that we heard, this survey begins to help you. So it's 33 characteristics that one would look for in a state superintendent, and every one of those people. So say there's total of, the audience is 30. I'm kind of making up a number, but close. The audience is 30, you'll at least get 30 of those in a survey, kind of SurveyMonkey framework. What are the top 10? So that'll tell all of us what are those characteristics that seem to blossom going forward, which will affect your profile. So if that works for all of you, that's the intent of the usage. Ricardo is, and after our discussions is put before you, this is our initial list of who we would, your stakeholders, who we would interview. When we do this in a city or a local school district, we actually have the school districts select the different groups, as well as the professional elements of the professional staff, but you get the Chamber of Commerce and you are the Business Council and you get, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is kind of your version of that, if you will. So it does cover your major state associations and it goes from top to bottom. So you go all the way from Michigan School Board Association to your certified and classified employees, which we think is critical, as well as your administrative side. Yes, Cassandra?
Couple questions. One, it has the governor and the chairs of the House and Senate Education Committees. Are you talking about the ones that exist today or the ones that will exist on January 1st?
We would be back in January doing this, so we assume it would be the new administration.
Okay. And then the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, I've been on the board for 12 years. They've never had any input on education policy, but the Detroit Regional Chamber has had a lot of input. So you might want to either add them or switch that out.
Yeah, and this is what this is for.
Yeah.
Please add to this list. Please edit it so that we're reflecting what you want to see us, who you want to see us talk to. So we're happy to add that. You'll have to decide. Sometimes it's, just one second, sometimes it's helpful to somebody like a chamber that hasn't been engaged before, is at least make the offer. Could be a benefit down the road.
I was thinking for the Chamber of Commerce to also include the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce, the Detroit, and then the other side of the state would be Grand Rapids. And then I'm also thinking having representation from philanthropic organizations.
Are we going to do this here? Are we going to make this? Or
This is offered for you as suggestions.
Okay.
We would ask that you take a look at that, and then you give us your final list of the groups that you would like us, and we'll work with your staff to schedule those in January.
I would like.
Yes.
I was thinking maybe the Michigan PTA or some parent organization, as well as, I'm not quite sure which organization, but someone who has some knowledge around the special ed, given our special ed concerns. So if it's a Michigan Protection and Advocacy, I'm not quite sure if it's the appropriate group. SEAC, Fran here, but, and I'm sure you'll probably hear from Terry, but someone who can give some feedback on what we're looking for
And
around
just so you
special ed.
know, some of these meetings are individual meetings like we conducted with board members. A lot of these become grouped by, common areas of, focus or responsibility or common ground. So a lot of these groups are 5 to 10. When we meet, like, for example, when we go into a local school district, we meet with the teachers. There's normally 10, 15, 20 teachers in one group. We meet with parents, like in the afternoon, it might be 20 or 30, parents. And when we meet with the principals, it's all the principals are invited, depending on how big the district is. We'll meet with anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20, principals. So some of these are groups that will group together by job alikes. Okay.
And please, one second, Lupe, please
Yeah.
please help us be sensitive. So if there's a group we really need to spend more individual time with, it's your insights that we need. We don't know that. We'd be inclined to take your management associations and possibly put them in one room. And if you look at me and say, that's not a good idea right now, that's fine, okay, and I'm not picking on anybody. The 2 teacher organizations, et cetera. So with your guidance, that would be extremely helpful. But we're happy to piece them together. And I'm looking down the table at Marilyn, and because what will happen is with these groups, we will ask you to schedule them. My hope is it's probably in most cases here. Ideally, we would do it on the Monday and Tuesday morning of your board meeting. So we would come in a day early, get started, go through the morning while you're meeting and we're not engaged necessarily. And that way, if you choose Tuesday afternoon, if we had to, we could stay Wednesday, but at least by Tuesday afternoon, we could at least share some perspectives that seem to surface that are appropriate to share at the moment. And so that there's kind of a flow, and when we get into the timetable, you'll see why. It's to move us into the real development and your approval of the profile by at latest the middle of February. That becomes the target, because then we need 30 to 45 days to announce it, to put it out there. And you want, the goal, I think, in your suggested timelines were to conclude this by the end of April, or your board meeting in April. So that's how we're pacing this, if that helps you. So
But can I though, but if by that time frame, if we're doing mid-February, then that gives you to the beginning of April to get the candidates in, so that would give us the month of April then to do the interviews, correct? Okay.
So I have Dr. Z, and then I have Lupe.
I wanted to ask how many would be unwieldy? What would be the maximum number that you'd recommend for us?
So let me explain kind of the logistics, how we normally come in for like 2 days, and normally there's 2 of us. Michael will have a schedule from, say 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and we schedule them on the hour, every hour, with a break for lunch in between. And then I would have a similar group, okay? So, and we ask them to come to us to a central location. So normally about 16, 15, 16 is like the maximum number we'll handle in a couple of days. We could also do a public forum for employees. For example, here with the Michigan Department of Ed, we could convene a forum at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and invite all of the employees to come in and provide input.
Okay. Now, just thinking aloud about this list, about half are what I'd characterize as educational establishment. And that's appropriate because I think they represent a good 80, 85%, maybe 90% of those who the department currently works with. And then you've got treasurers and, you got 2 unions. You got the treasurers, the classified personnel, which I'm not sure who those are.
Those are
your bus drivers, custodians,
So it's
school
another union
secretaries.
then, eh?
correct.
Okay. And then you got the chamber. I'm not sure that rural schools interests will surface, maybe through the boards or the principals, but one of the constituencies that we have been very interested in is our black students. So maybe NAACP, or I don't know if some other appropriate group might be we might want to consider. But of course, then there are all kinds of other groups that want to have input, and that's, I guess, our challenge.
And I did put NAACP down.
Okay. And I think a significant part of the public school schools in Michigan are charter schools, and maybe they need maybe their organization, one of their professional organizations needs a special opportunity. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking out loud here.
So as you were talking, Dr. Z, I was thinking about Ed Alliance. And when I look at the groups 1 through 7, that's part of Ed Alliance, but there's some other aspects of Ed Alliance that aren't included. So I was thinking we would invite all of them, and then those who chose to come and give input could come.
Okay.
Rather than picking out just some of them.
And
Makes sense.
I'm trying to wrap my mind too around how do we make sure that we're engaging those organizations, entity, or people who could give good input if we're moving ourselves towards a whole child, whole community model. So I'll give some thought to that too.
And Lupe?
Am I next?
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
All right, well, thank you so much for the information and the suggested group of people. Now, one of the things that I always worry about is where are the people of color in this section here? Now, we do have in our state, the Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. How come you guys didn't think of putting them there? Why, how come it has to be the other group? So we have statewide Hispanic groups, African American groups, Asian, Indian. There, we have all kinds, and so what I don't see here is diversity. And so LEAD is another group of Hispanos that are leaders in the state level, and so that's another group I would recommend. And I have the same kind of feelings, you know, NAACP, charter schools, rural schools. So these are the elite of the educational field. And so, yes, they're very important, but so are all the other. And I want to see myself in the mix. Thank you.
And Pam?
I can just say, when I met with Ricardo,
Ricardo.
I did mention that I would provide some names. So those were definitely on my list, and we kind of talked about it, but I just said that I would
all right.
provide those myself. So just give us the
Okay,
time when you need those by, and we'll make sure we get them to you.
If we could get those, like in the next,
Next Friday?
I was gonna say, before you break for Christmas, for holiday break. Okay, that would be very helpful. On the Chamber of Commerce, if we invite all of the different Chamber of Commerce organizations together to one group, we could entertain all of them together as a group.
Yeah.
Instead of having 7 different meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And Pamela, if I may suggest, if next Friday, a week from Friday, becomes a troublesome deadline for you all and you want the holiday, at least so that we can really move very rapidly after the first of the year. So, I can't speak for all the things that you all have on your plate, so ideally, it'll be a week from Friday, but you guide us in that.
Just to get a head start on the scheduling part.
So with that in mind, our January board meeting is Tuesday, January 8th.
Oh, it's early this time.
Yes, it's early.
Make sure I have that on my calendar.
Okay, we can do it,
Okay.
we're good. Then next Friday probably becomes a little more helpful.
That's why I thought it was important to mention that date.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. All right, so you're gonna add to this list, and we'll make it appropriate. We'll work closely with Meryl.
You'll provide the information to
Can we
Cassandra
have
and
you
to...
send your suggestions to Marilyn?
Okay.
She will compile them and then send them to Ray and Associates on our behalf.
And can I just say that for some groups, I think they're more resourceful in coming together collectively and getting someplace together. Some groups, and I think you may have said this, it may be that you're having to go to them and meet individuals.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
it's probably.
Okay.
I'm gonna lean on my compadre here more often, but yes.
And I probably shouldn't use the word resourceful. They're just more able and
Yes.
better equipped.
Well,
Okay.
and sometimes it's most appropriate we go there. We don't always have
Okay.
to bring everybody. It's where it's possible, it's
Okay,
great.
thank you.
So before we leave this topic, if everyone could please get to Marilyn by noon on Friday, that would be the 21st. Their additions to the list, and that way Marilyn can compile them and send them to Ray and Associates by the close of business on Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cassandra, are we good on that? So we only have 3 more things. We got 2 done.
Go ahead.
We got the salary done, and we got so you want to do advertising?
We're gonna go to the brochure.
Okay, sure.
Okay. What we wanted to discuss next, if you could get that to Lupe over there. We're handing out the brochure that was used last time, and we're handing it out as a sample of what it looks like, and then we would ask, we also know that you have developed a recent job description for your superintendent that becomes your board policy, and that I would expect would be embedded in here. We would like to see if staff would take this sample and give feedback to our home office. And I've got a few extra copies if you need it. It's a 2-page handout. Did everybody get a copy? Everybody get a copy of the brochure?
Yep.
Yeah.
Two pages,
Two
right?
pages.
Capitol in the upper left-hand corner and the state boardroom in the lower left of the other page.
I'm missing the second.
Okay, here's the second page.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a single-sided two-page document. And again, we don't have, this will be updated with all the new information, and again, we'll work with staff, but we wanted to get this in your hands, because this will go on Ray and Associates website, and as part of the recruitment brochure. When we go to American Association of School Administrators Convention in February, we take copies of this with us, because a lot of the superintendents come and visit our booth and to see what kind of jobs are available across the country, and that's also where we do a lot of recruitment. So there's no action necessary on this today, but we do want you to take a look at it, and I would expect somebody, Cassandra, to delegate it to you and staff to provide feedback between now and January when we come back.
Maryland's not gonna like us anymore.
Yeah. And we wanted to mention advertisement. The last time we were here, we talked briefly, if we could set a number of $3,000 as the maximum number, we think we can come in around 2,500 with all the different and you gave us a list last time. So if we could stay with 3,000, if you could give us a direction on that, we certainly feel that we can. A lot of them are free services like the Michigan Association of School Administrators and MAISD, et cetera, Michigan Association of School Boards.
I think that was even less than we had talked about last month, so that's great that you can do
Yeah.
it for 3.
I think we can do it for 3,000. Okay.
So what we'll have the home office do is send it back to you, like maybe by this Friday, but definitely the beginning of next week. So you can distribute as you distribute, so at least you'll have it in front of you. So if there are some that might be missing, or you thought of something else, or you heard about something else, et cetera, that way we have plenty of opportunity to deal with it in January. So if that works for you. While Ricardo's passing that, I have 2 questions that's helpful in the recruitment process. I'm trying to get a sense from you all. It's in the questions that we asked you individually, but there's 2 things that weren't there. And one is, and Nikki, I think you and Jessica I asked separately, but in fairness to
thank you.
everybody. Is the board interested in looking outside of Michigan as well as inside Michigan? That changes the pursuit.
My personal opinion, I would say yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yes.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're a national organization, we recruit nationally, but I did get feedback from some of you that you would prefer an in-state person,
Yeah.
just because of their ability to get up to speed with everything that's going on in the state of Michigan.
But it does,
But you would entertain.
we would still do it nationally, but
Yeah.
it makes a difference when we can honestly say the board is open. That's all we say, not a
Absolutely.
preference, just
Yep.
open.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, my second question now is related internally. And I don't want to know if there are preferences internally. I certainly don't want to know now who. Okay, that's not the point of the question. The point of the question is, and just let us know, again, this is another one of those, you don't have to tell me now. But if there are internal candidates, and I don't know whether there are or not, but if there are, and if you want them treated any differently, we're going to need to be told. Otherwise, we take internal candidates from everywhere and treat them just like every other candidate that applies.
When you say internal, you mean MDE staff?
Correct.
Yes.
I think everyone should be treated the same.
Agreed.
Okay, but those are the 2 questions that don't come across in the interview questions, and they really kind of just help our guidance, that's all, about how we treat things for you. Okay.
All right, the timeline, again, we gave you that timeline that was revised slightly. We're looking, based on your timeline, finalizing everything around April 15th. So if you look at the bottom of that page and put April 15th down at the bottom, we could do some backwards mapping. We do about 2 months' worth of recruitment. So that would back it up to about April 15th, that we would start the recruitment phase. and we would finalize all of the input and gathering and the brochure and everything else. It would be done by around the 1st of February.
Middle at the latest.
Yeah.
We need, what we need in order to get to roughly April 1, or maybe the week before, as you brought up, Lupe, is that we need to really put this thing on the street no later than February 20th, so we've got at least 40 days to draw in. We can push it, but I think 45. And it will allow us in February to be at AASA, which is helpful.
Yeah.
You know, school boards is later, but the AASA will be helpful. And you'll see in our recommendations, it also covers the National Latino Superintendents Group and also the National Black Superintendents Group are all part of our recommendation to you within that $3,000.
For the advertisement.
For the advertisement. And they have their own segments at AASA, and so we will actually make sure that we're connected and have an appearance and so forth.
What's the date of
So
our February?
there's nothing you need to do with the timeline other than plug in April 15th at the bottom end, and we would be done by then. And then we will go back and backwards map and fill in dates.
For your consideration, yeah. So we'll
And
get.
bring that back to you.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that you'll get both that and the advertisement list you'll have before the holiday break, to at least, you know, noodle with.
So our February board meeting is February 12th.
Yeah.
Is it possible we could have the final draft of the flyer so we could approve it at that board meeting?
We're gonna have the final draft of the flyer to you beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be the latest we'd like you to approve it.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we should have that in January.
Yeah, you'll have it in January.
All right.
So we'll have it by the January 8th board meeting?
No, because we need the input of all
Okay,
these.
so if does it require a vote on the part of the board?
Procedurally, it typically happens, and I think the only way can you vote online?
No.
That's what I didn't think so, okay. But it will be all set. In other words, we would like any modifications to us before your meeting on the 12th. So it really is, I mean, there could always be last minute things, but that way we really, the minute you approve it, we literally gonna call the office and say, go, post it everywhere. I mean, it's gonna happen that day.
Well,
So
in case
could
we
we-
have changes we want to make tonight.
So if there are board members, if we send it to board members and there are changes that board members want to make, could they send those changes to Cassandra, and then you could get the approval from Cassandra or whoever is the board president at that time?
Absolutely.
Yes.
However, you tell us how
Yeah.
you want that to go.
Normally, they delegate for us to finish it, but we just need information in the brochure.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
To come from you, from the department.
Meetings Act issue or anything. I think you could handle it.
because the salary would already be approved.
So yes, you'll officially approve it at your February meeting, but it'll be,
Well, I think what I'm hearing is I could approve it earlier than that,
yeah.
assuming there's no major changes from the board members.
I think if you send it to all the board members and we agree beforehand that if no one objects, then the president can just give you the
Yeah,
okay.
then you probably need a motion to direct her to do that,
Yeah, that's fine.
whoever her is.
And you
Cover
can
me,
do that
please.
now, to make the motion if you wanted to, or in January.
Should probably wait till January.
Yeah,
We can wait till
let-
January.
Because we'd have,
Then you'll know who your
we'd have the
president
Know
new,
who's
we'd know who the
president.
president is, and we'd have the two
Isn't
new
that
board
wise?
members.
Can we make a motion?
And we'd have the two new board members.
So we do like to have one board member, you know, to be the medium of communication with the rest of the board, and also a staff person, so it's helpful for us to have those two individuals. So that is all of the information that we had for you. If you have any additional questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them.
Any additional questions for Ricardo or for Mike? Okay.
I have one
Lupe?
question. So we're giving them enough time to apply because this is a big
Yes,
change in
yes.
somebody's life.
Our normal application period recruitment is 6 weeks.
Yeah, and if I may, and Sheila's probably gonna smile at me, but it's this time of year when it normally gears up.
Yes.
Because it's that July 1 typically start date.
Yeah.
So they're also, whoever might be looking has a tendency to be very attuned from this holiday all the way basically to spring break. And that, you know, this is one of those things when you're busy, you're just unbelievably busy and then it gets quiet. So you're exactly in the time frame you want to be, Lupe, so we feel a sense of comfort about that.
Yeah, you're on the front end of the superintendent search season. So that's good. I wanted to make one additional comment. We're looking to schedule the interim superintendent and the other deputies for one-on-one interviews next week. And then later on, when we do stakeholders, we'll do department heads and other MDE staff.
Whoever you want to settle. We'd like to do that as a group if possible.
Absolutely.
But your immediate, the four of you, Ricardo's been gracious enough to say he'll do that personally.
Thank you. We will work to schedule that to happen next week. Anything else? All right, seeing nothing else, thank you both, Ricardo and Mike, for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Because I won't necessarily talk to you. Happy holidays to one and all.
Thank you. And you as well. Okay, our next item on today's agenda is state and federal legislative update, and that is Martin Ackley, our Director of Public and Governmental Affairs, will lead the state and federal legislative update, along with Stephen DeGrow. Welcome to board table.
Thank you. Thank you. This is the lame duck season, as they say. Not quite the superintendent search season. It's after. Anyway, the State Board's Legislative Committee met on November 29th. And as you know, there are some pieces of legislation that are moving. But during that meeting, there was a discussion about the education plan for the governor-elect. So those were discussed, as well as possibly some members of the state board meeting with the governor's landing team. I think that is being discussed with the landing team and how that can be facilitated, hopefully. And also the fact that the board, members of the committee would like to have the governor-elect come to either the January, February, March, and/or all of the meetings for next year. And then beginning discussing and having meetings with the newly appointed committee chairs in the House and Senate and approps. And so we'll be working on that, as well as starting to develop a legislative agenda for the board in the coming session. And a lot is happening down at the state capitol as lame duck is careening to the end of the year. Several pieces of education legislation may be moving, including many of the bills that we have discussed at the table, including the A through F bill, Public Innovative Districts bill, Educator Prep Institution Reform bills, bills that affect labor representation at school districts, and school safety bills. Those are all in play. Some are moving. The Public Innovative Districts bills moved out of the House, and there is a Senate Education Committee meeting right now. And our liaison, Caroline Lethan, is keeping vigil. She actually testified in opposition to the PID bills at the Senate committee meeting shortly ago. And so, we would just want to make sure that the legislature is fully aware of the impact of all these bills on schools, educators, and students. And if the bills move, we want to make sure that the best possible policy is adopted. So I have Stephen DeGrow, who is our legislative analyst. He's got my 6 today in case there are questions on detail on any of the bills. So I'm open to questions or discussion about lame duck or the future policy discussion with the board next session, next term, as far as an agenda. Discussion, any questions? All right, thank you.
Not so fast.
I had,
Michelle?
So I know on the teacher prep bills, there's a couple of them that are still in the House, or at least they were the last time I looked, that were the part of the bill that deals with the payment for 2 additional, whatever the warranty thing is, and then $1,000 that would have, the institution would have to pay for every student teacher. It looks like some of it's moved out of the House. I'm just wondering what your feeling is if does that mean that those bills as part of that package are unlikely to be moving, or is there something else going on? Do you know
Well,
anything?
the teacher prep bills are also up for discussion at the Senate Education.
With the exception of some of the
Two
ones,
that
the
I-
two
the
that
two
you
I
you
mentioned,
mentioned.
okay.
And so I mean, I'm not going to play
I
the
know,
prediction
I
game,
know,
but I
yeah.
would say that the fact that they're considering 5 of the teacher prep bills today and not some of the others,
7, yeah.
that the ones they are considering would be more likely than not to be the ones that moved.
I also had some questions on the union ones. Okay, so this is a little self-serving. So there was discussion of having a bill, I don't think it's been numbered, but there's talk of it, that would make it so, would get rid of payroll deduction for dues, which is what the teachers have, K-12 have right now. They don't have, so they have to go and scramble and get the dues every month from their members, which is just to bust the union. I mean, it's just a union busting tactic. It's nothing to do with efficiency or fairness. But, and so I've been told there's going to be one that's going to, that there's going to be a broader one that's going to apply to community colleges and other institutions. I'm just wondering if it affects universities that have elected board of governors. And maybe that's too technical if you guys.
Is that the one that requires you to re-up every 2 years?
No, there's
Oh, okay.
two. So there's one that requires a union election of the entire membership of your union to vote. And if we had the same standards for president, we'd never have a president. But anyway, but there's that one. But then there's also one that has been discussed as a possibility, which is to eliminate the dues deduction. So, I mean, it would just bank, I mean, it's just because they don't want unions, basically, whoever's proposing this legislation. So I don't know if you know anything about that, if there's an elected board, if that has any effect on this type of union legislation.
I don't know, as far as the new bill is concerned, it's late in the game for a new bill. If anything like that would be considered, it would most likely be amended into an existing bill that's in the process.
Right, that's what they're talking, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You know, Steve?
I don't. I mean, that's something that we can look into. There, as you know, there are several bills out there dealing with the labor unions as it relates to schools. But we can, if that's something you're interested in, we can.
Yeah, and I can also research it too. I just thought maybe you might know. So I'll leave it up to someone else to ask a question now, yeah.
Other questions?
I don't have questions. I'll just make a statement. I know that we have already made a statement as a board in general, but, just for the record, I just want to say, again, how horrible it is. I mean, we're looking forward to our 2 new board members that are coming on board in January. As a bipartisan board, we've worked well together. We've made a lot of things happen, even as a 4-4 split came about. We didn't know how that was going to work out, but we've gotten along fairly well. And it's just unfortunate that, we have a legislator and legislators that would want to take away power from an elected board that's accountable to the residents of Michigan, and put that responsibility and put the opportunity for that board to be put together by a governor that's outgoing. It's unfortunate, I will have to say, as a female, as a woman, as someone who, wears multiple hats, to see that our board will be, it'll be 71? I'll be the only male.
Wow.
So we have 1 male on our board. We have a female governor-elect. We have a female Secretary of State-elect, and we have a female Attorney General-elect. And that is an awesome opportunity for us as women to be able to show that we can lead as we always have. And for this to be an attack at this time on not only the electorate and the residents of Michigan who have control over, they elected us. And to take that away from us and to take that power away from the residents, as well as to seem and appear to be doing that to women, it's unfortunate. So I'm looking at you, but I should be probably looking, I'm directionally challenged, I think that way, maybe that way. But
Got one there too.
so, I mean, but it is unfortunate. We've written letters. We, encourage everyone to write letters and to be outraged, because this is a time to be outraged. And we had a vote in November, and that should be the vote. And people who are, it's time for them to retire and move on. We appreciate them for their service, and they should move on and not still be trying to control things from a space of wherever it is that they're moving to. So I just wanted to say that.
As a follow-up to the letter writing campaign, Pam, as a member of Launch Michigan Steering Committee, I was approached today to ask to add my name to a letter that is going to Senator Pavlo, opposing the bills 6415 and 6414, which are the public innovation district bills. So I've added my name to that letter opposing both of those bills, along with the other members of Launch Michigan.
Because we have innovative districts.
We
that
have a
oversee-
council.
yeah,
We
the
have a council of innovation council that
And we, as the
districts
Michigan Department of Education.
at the Department of Ed. And we have heard from at least 36 districts who have applied to do some innovative things. And we have approved every district's application to be innovative, except for the districts in which they are asking for funds from the department to support their innovation, and we don't have funds to give to them. And we have many fewer requirements for districts to go through to apply to be innovative. What's in the PID bills are a bunch of hoops that districts have to jump through. And then you have the entire commission, for which we have an innovative council that can handle those requests.
I just want to echo Pam's thoughts. I have done a number of media interviews over the last 2 weeks. I've written an op-ed. And so I think I've been as clear as I can be that both myself and I think the board opposes this legislation, and hopefully it will die a swift death in lame duck by the 20th. But to your point, I think it's clear that these bills are not intended to create innovation in the state. They are intended to create a shadow state board of education. And they're using something that already exists as a platform in which they can do that. And the fact that there are two bills that include the exact same commission with the exact same makeup and the exact same name, that will be, the majority of which will be named by a governor who has, at that point, less than 2 weeks to his 8-year term, I think is as transparent as you can possibly be in what the intent of these bills are. So I hope that anyone in the legislature who cares about their legacy will think twice about voting yes on either of these bills, and let us get back to the work of overseeing public education in the state of Michigan and get past this.
Anyone else care to comment?
Veto.
You mean, yeah, and I just said the A to F is something I've been focused on, so I think that would fundamentally, if an unelected body can decide what is an A school and an F school and treat everybody the same, it's just such a broad brush, destructive, they can decide how to close school. That's a real problem as well, so I've been focusing my time trying to stop that one.
So thank you, all members of the board, for your advocacy to continue to support public education and oppose anything that does not support.
Yeah.
public schools, public education in Michigan, and what's best for the children of Michigan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lupe, do we have any report from NASB this month?
Well, the only thing I want to report is that starting in January, our executive vice president will become the president CEO of NASB. His name is Robert Hall, Hull. And then Chris Edmondson will be the senior advisor for NASB. So she will work, not part-time, not full-time. But Robert has been with NASB for many years, so he is fabulous. He is fabulous. So she leaves a very strong leader in that capacity. So from now on, we're going to be working with Robert. I'm going to see if I can get him to come and visit the board and make a short presentation. I think that would be really cool because I talk a lot about how great we are. And so let's work on that, Sheila.
I'll help you with that, Lupe, absolutely.
Let's invite him and see if he can come.
Most definitely.
May I just add to Lupe's comments on Dr. Hull? He was in the West Virginia Board of Education when they reorganized their small districts into larger districts, so he has a lot of experience with institutional change and
He's awesome.
tells some great jokes too, so.
Yes, he dresses sharp, wears real sharp glasses. Yes.
Are there any other board members who would care to offer comments this afternoon?
You mean about the legislation?
We can offer comments. I think we've moved on.
Oh, okay.
This is just comments by State Board of
Oh, yeah.
Education members. Next thing on the agenda.
Okay, sure.
Tom?
Yeah, I'm glad that we're progressing on the hiring of the next state superintendent. I'm glad that it's going to be in April. We have our May retreat where I think the next state superintendent will really be interested in hearing even more what we want our priorities to be in the coming 2 to 3 years. And I think that state superintendent with his or her team will really work and help align the department with our input in what the focus priorities for the next 2 to 3 years and beyond will be for that for MD. So I'm looking forward to the whole process.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Hope everyone has a relaxing holiday and that whatever happens in the legislature is not what I fear. And that it's peaceful and goodness will reign. And if not, get your rest because it's going to be a heck of a fight in January. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I would just say in my culture, my world, we say Merry Christmas, but whatever you celebrate, Happy Holidays.
Thank you.
And in mine, we say Feliz Navidad.
Fröhliche Weihnachten.
Happy Festivus.
Okay, future meeting dates. Our next Board of Education meeting is Tuesday, January 8th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting, and I have reached out to the Governor-elect's landing team to invite her to attend our meeting on the 8th or any of the future meetings. Following that, our next meeting is Tuesday, February 12th, 2019, 9:30 a.m. Again, this is a regular meeting, and then our March meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 12th at 9:30, and again, this is a regular meeting. If there are any topics that any board member would like included on a future meeting agenda, please let us know now or in the very near future for our January agenda, because we will be working next week to finalize our January agenda due to the holidays at the end of the month. Lupe.
I don't know, I suggested Dr. Hall, so that won't be in January, but he starts in January, but so let's work on
Oh,
that one, but
we'll
I don't
reach
know
out to
what month he will be able to come.
We'll reach out to him and see when we can schedule him to
Okay,
attend a
thank
board
you.
meeting.
I was just going to say, I put out Derek Lopez, who's the superintendent of Flint Community Schools, and I think as we're talking about whole child, whole community, he really has a focus on that, but also because of everything that has happened and is happening in Flint, I think that it would be very timely to hear from him because he has a good grasp, and that is the mantra that he came to Flint with. So would love to have him as soon as possible be able to talk about the challenges as well as the future of Flint Community Schools.
Reach out to him as well. All right. So with that, we are adjourned. But before we adjourn, I'd like to wish everyone a very happy holiday and also wish everyone a happy and healthy new year. And if you are traveling, please be safe. And we look forward to seeing you in 2019. With that, we are adjourned, but please don't leave. Please join us in the outer area for a reception for Dr. Z and for Eileen if she were here.